Hey folks, so a lot of you are searching for Haiku AI. Now, that can either mean two things. Either you are interested in the Claude Haiku series of models, which are, by the way, accessible for free at claude.ai, or maybe you want to write a haiku using an AI tool like ChatGPT. And for those of you who are not familiar, then a haiku is a very short form of poetry that originated in Japan. Now, in case you are not interested in the Claude series of models as such, I would still recommend you to know a bit more about these AI models, because what usually happens is that either of these models is more powerful than the other one. So in case you know which is the more powerful model, you can use that for generating your haiku, and you might end up getting a better result. Okay, so we'll very quickly start with covering the Claude Haiku series of models. So what you see here right now is Claude Haiku is the name of the model, and the number that you see next to it, it is the version number. So Claude Haiku 4.5 is the latest release of the haiku model from Anthropic. Okay, Anthropic is the company which owns Claude, right? And just let us get a bigger picture of what the different kinds of models that we have. So we have got three main companies which are making AI models. So we have got Google, we have got Anthropic, and we have got OpenAI, right? These are the three main companies which make AI models, and it's traditionally considered that these three are the major AI companies which produce the best models. Of course, there are smaller companies as well, but these three are the best ones that we have in the industry. So we have got Gemini models from Google, we have got Claude models from Anthropic, and then we have got the GPT models from OpenAI. GPT, ChatGPT are the same thing here, right? Okay, so let's actually take a look at the lightweight and the fastest set of models. So haiku models from Anthropic are comparable to the flashlight models from Google, and the nano models from OpenAI. So GPT Nano is comparable to Claude Haiku and to Gemini Flashlight. Similarly, Gemini Flash is comparable to Claude Sonnet and GPT Mini. And lastly, Gemini Pro is comparable to Claude Opus and the standard versions of GPT. So we also call these sometimes as GPT instant models, etc, etc. And all of these models have a thinking option separately. So in simple terms, what that means is that let's say if we go to Claude, you see this option for extended thinking here, right? So when we usually enable this option, then what happens is that the AI model will take more time to process your query, and it is generally considered that when the thinking mode is enabled, then you will get a better response for your query. So ideally, what I would recommend you to do is that you can enable the thinking mode, thinking option for any kind of query that you have, whether it is writing a haiku, whether it is a coding task, or any kind of task. Okay, and do note here that now let's actually cover how you can access each model. Okay, so currently I am on the free plan or at claude.ai, and as you can see here, here the Opus model, which is the most powerful model, that is not available in the free tier. We only have access to the Sonnet and the haiku models, right? So since Sonnet is more powerful, I would recommend you to enable this, and you can also enable the extended thinking option. If you go to more models, then you will see that we have got options for Opus 4.5, Opus 3, and Sonnet 4.5. So Sonnet 4. The Opus models are not accessible to us in the free plan. So between Sonnet 4.5 and Sonnet 4.6, you should of course use the newer model, which is Sonnet 4.6, and that should give you better outputs. Right now, let's actually go ahead and see another thumb rule that I want to tell you is that if we go back to this comparison chart, then what ends up happening is that if you want to figure out which, let's say if you are comparing flashlight, haiku, and the nano models, and if you want to know which of these models is the best of the bunch, then the usual thumb rule is that whichever is the latest model is the better one, right? Now to kind of compare that, what you can do is you can just go ahead and do a simple Google search, right? For example, you can maybe do a Google search for GPT 5.4 nano release date, Gemini 3.1 flashlight release date, or the Claude Haiku 4.5 release date, right? And it will give you all the release dates. For example, the Claude Haiku 4.5 model was released on October 15, 25. Then the Gemini 3.1 flashlight model, this was released on the 3rd of March 2026, and the GPT 5.4 Nano model was released on March 17th. So since this is the latest model, this is the most powerful of the bunch. Ideally, there is not that big of a difference between any of these models, and you can use either one to get the best quality output. So what I would really just recommend you to do is that if you don't want to get into all these intricacies into comparing AI models and seeing which one is the best of the bunch, and you don't want to maybe like look at something like benchmarks, what usually happens is that so GPT 5.4 mini, as we were seeing, was released on March 17th, and OpenAI put out this tweet where they sort of shared all these different benchmarks or comparing their 5.4 mini to the Claude Haiku models and the Gemini models. And 5.4 mini and 5.4 nano were released together, and they ended up comparing it with both Haiku 4.5 and Gemini Flash. So the usual cases benchmarks is that the higher the model scores, the better it is considered. And here you will see that 5.4 mini kind of performs better than Haiku 4.5 and Gemini Flash in most cases. So it is generally considered that GPT 5.4 mini is better. But again, like I'm saying, that AI models are more of a commodity now, and it can also be a bit of a headache to figure out, okay, that even if you have to look up which model is the latest, then you should still know, okay, that GPT 5.4 is the latest. You might not know that, okay, that how do you pull off these version numbers, that Gemini 3.1 flashlight is the latest. I will tell you how you can maybe pull off these version numbers as well, but still it is a bit of core, right, that it might be a bit cumbersome to pull off all these version numbers, then to do a Google search for which one is the latest. So if you just want to simply compare these models, then what I would just simply recommend you to do is that go ahead, if you are, let's say, doing something as simple as writing a haiku, right, and you can just simply do that by maybe just giving the AI model a prompt like write a haiku on sunrise, right? Take this prompt, feed that to ChatGPT. Don't change any settings, right? Go to a new chat, write this prompt, go to Claude, write this prompt, and then maybe go to Gemini, write this prompt. Give all of them the prompt, compare the outputs, see which one suits your requirements the best, and that is the best one. You don't have to worry about comparing models or any of that kind of you don't have to go down that rabbit hole at all. Okay, but in case you do want to go down that rabbit hole, then let me actually show you how you can pull off those version numbers that I showed you. Okay, so for Gemini models, the thing is that if we go back to Claude, then it will actually show you the version number, right? So we see Opus 4.6, Sonnet 4.6, Haiku 4.5. If you go to the Gemini app, this is true for both the desktop website and also the Gemini mobile app, we will just see these options, right? Fast, you will see fast, thinking, and pro, and then you will just see that it is using Gemini 3. Now Gemini 3 is there, of course, but we also have what we call as Gemini 3.1 now, right? So the way you can pull off these version models, so what I mean by this is that if you go ahead and select the pro option here, then you will see that it uses 3.1 pro. But what does Gemini use in Gemini 3 fast? It actually uses Gemini 3 flash, but then again you might not be very sure, right? If you want to be very sure about the latest version releases, then all you have to just do is go, and this is for Gemini, by the way, you go to this website. I will have all these linked down below. You go to aistudio.google.com, you create a new chat, and then you just simply come to the right hand side, and here you will find the model selector. So here you will be able to view all the latest models which are available. So we have Gemini 3 Flash, 3.1 Pro, 3.1 Flashlight, and etc, right? So you can just scroll down and you can see which are the latest models available. So these are the three latest ones: 3 Flash, 3.1 Pro, and 3.1 Flashlight. So these are the latest ones, right? And that's how I was able to figure out those models from there, and just do a Google search for those. Now in the case of OpenAI, things kind of get trickier, right? Let's say if I go ahead and start a new chat, then I don't get any option, right? And I'm on the free plan here as well, by the way. If I go here, then it doesn't show me anything, right? It will simply show me, okay, that I can use ChatGPT, and that is the only model that is selected. If you're on one of the paid plans, then it will show you more models that you can choose from. Now let's just say we do a simple query like hi, okay, and then it will give me the response. Now if I just click on this reload option, right, then it will show me that it is using GPT 5.3, but of course there is no other option to kind of view or just select a custom model. So that's what OpenAI is. The ChatGPT experience is kind of a bit lacking here, so you will have to dig a bit for that. Now if you want to know more about that, then you can just hop over to the model release notes from OpenAI, and that will let you know the default model that is being used. So if you just go through here, then we saw that GPT 5.3 was released. So we are using GPT 5.3 instant here. But if you go through this particular section, then it says that we saw this tweet that OpenAI released GPT 5.4, right? And they are available. They are not making. So we have got three models of GPT 5.4, like we saw: the standard version, the mini version, and the nano version. Now the thing is that they are not making the standard version of 5.4 available to free plan users, but 5.4 mini is accessible. So let's quickly go through this. We are rolling out GPT 5.4 mini in ChatGPT. GPT 5.4 mini is available to free and ChatGPT Go users. This is one of the paid plans via the thinking feature in the plus menu. For all other users, GPT 5.4 mini is available as a limit fallback for GPT 5.4 thinking. Okay, now what does that mean? GPT 5.4 thinking simply means that if you go to ChatGPT and you click on this plus option at the bottom, at just besides the input text box, then if you enable this thinking option, then it will use GPT 5.4 mini, and when this thinking option is enabled, then that is what it means by GPT 5.4 thinking. And for those of you who are on the paid plan, you might actually see a GPT 5.4 thinking option in this drop down here. Anyway, if we just go back to that article from OpenAI that we were reading, then it says for Plus, Pro and other paid users, GPT 5.4 mini will be used as a fallback for GPT 5.4 thinking when rate limits are reached, helping with continued access to reasoning capabilities. During high usage, enterprise customers will retain the option to default auto routing to GPT 5.4 mini if preferred. GPT 5.4 mini will not appear as a selectable model in the model picker, and GPT 5 thinking mini will be retired, etc., etc. Okay, so we don't get that accessibility option, and you will again have to dig a bit for if you just want to use GPT 4 mini thinking model. So yeah, that is where things can get a bit tricky. But of course, if you're, let's say, maybe you are not using something like ChatGPT, and if you are instead using something like OpenRouter, where these model names are mentioned more explicitly, then you can use these models from in there as well. Okay, so for example, if we do go to explore models, then you will see that, and let me just quickly search for GPT, right? So here you will actually see all the models mentioned, right? GPT 5.4 mini, nano, pro, 5.4. Pro is another option that they do have, but it's very expensive, and they didn't release like they did have 5.2 pro. So yeah, pro is also there. You can just maybe say that it is their flagship model, but usually what we have seen is that not a lot of people use pro because it is very, very expensive. If I just go to the pricing here, right, you will see that it costs 180 per million output tokens, just means output words. And if you compare, let's say, the GPT 5.4, the standard model, then it costs less than a 1/10 of that. So 5.4 Pro, not a lot of users use that. It is only for very well established use cases. So I didn't mention the Pro model, but yeah, that is the thumb rule, right? Like if you want to use any of these models, then you can try using these. You can try going to some place like OpenRouter, where you can just explicitly enter the model name, and it will tell you that okay, it will make you that model accessible. So that is one option. But if you just want to stick to the interfaces of which are offered by either Claude, ChatGPT, or Gemini out of the box, then this is what you get. Okay, and for Gemini, the thing is that since we saw that if we actually go back to the tweet, right here, right, then you will actually see that the Gemini Flash models are currently better than the Haiku models. So you can actually go back and ideally you can use flashlight since it is like much newer, but since in this benchmark they didn't OpenAI didn't like compare Haiku with the flashlight models. Flashlight wasn't out by that date, I think, or was it? Anyway, they didn't include that. They included just flashlight. They just included the flash and the Haiku models. So it is not a thumb rule that that you just have to that if you're comparing Haiku, then it has to be with the flashlight model. You can also compare it with flash. That is also all right, right? And from what I have seen, that Gemini 3 Flash is a very good model. And a couple of things that you should note, that if you want to use Gemini, is that if you use the Gemini app, then there is a limit on the number of pro queries that you can send. I think that limit is currently 3 in the free plan. So you get 3 queries using the pro model per day. If you use the Gemini AI Studio, then the pro model has, I think, a limit of 10 queries per day currently. So you get a lot of queries. You can use like 10 queries from in here, 10 queries from the Gemini app, so you get a total of 13. And like if you have multiple Google accounts, you can also switch those, right? You can rotate those accounts. And then we saw how you can access 5.4 mini thinking inside ChatGPT. And then Claude, of course, it gives you that option to select any of the Sonnet or Haiku models, and you can enable thinking for all those, for either of these models, right? So yeah, that is the general overview of where we are with the AI models, how they compare. And just keep in mind the thumb rule that the newer models are generally better than the older ones. Okay, so if you are very enthusiastic and you want to use the best model, then just simply do a Google search for the release dates of all the models and the latest ones, at least like in the pro models, right? Like if you want to use the best ones, then it will be the pro models from Gemini Pro, Claude Opus, and the, like, let's say in this case the GPT 5.4, not the GPT 5.4 Pro option, just GPT 5.4. That would be the best option for you, for your use cases. And like we saw, GPT 5.4 Pro is crazy expensive, and I wouldn't recommend anyone to spend that kind of money. So if you want to use the best model, then just look up the dates that these models were released, and as we have seen, GPT 5.4 is currently not available in the free plan users. Claude, the latest version of Claude Opus is also not available in the free plan, but the latest model, the latest Pro model is accessible in both the Gemini app and the AI Studio. So if you're simply looking for the best model out there, your best bet currently is to go with the Gemini. And well, like I'm telling you, these models are kind of like a commodity now, right? They are, even if you use like Flashlight, Flash, or even Gemini Pro, anything, mostly if you are doing something as simple as like writing a haiku or any simple task, then even the least powerful models will get that job done, right? So yeah, that is the thing that you have to keep in mind. But if you want to use the best model and you don't want to think much about it, just go ahead, go to my recommendation would actually be to use the Gemini, the AI Studio. But yeah, I can understand the interface seems a bit overwhelming, but all you have to just do is, you don't have to tinker with any of these other settings. You just go here, you go to the model drop down, and you just select the latest Pro model. That is it. You don't have to do anything like that. You enter your prompt here and you hit the run button. That's it. If you have to upload files, then of course there is the option to upload files down here as well, right? So you can upload files like, let's say, from Google Drive. You can record audio. You can even use YouTube videos here as well. This is not available in Claude and ChatGPT models. So yeah, that is just something to keep in mind. Now let's actually get to writing a haiku. Now how you can do that quite well is that, let's say how I started with writing a good quality haiku is that I gave ChatGPT a prompt, and I was like, hey, tell me what is a haiku and what are some things that one should keep in mind while writing a haiku. Now what this does is that ChatGPT will just tell you what are the best pointers for writing a haiku. Like you should keep the 5-7-5 style in mind. So the first line has 5 syllables, second one has 7 syllables, and the third one has 5 syllables. And then what makes a good haiku, it will tell you everything. And what the good part of this is that now when you tell it to write a haiku on let's say sunrise, then it will retain this context of the conversation while generating the output for this haiku. So it might end up giving you a better result. So this is just one of those things. And anyway, like, you know, even if you just give ChatGPT this prompt in a completely new chat, like just write a haiku on sunrise, even then it will probably generate a decent enough haiku, right? These are just like some hacks that you pick over time, but it's not mandatory to just use either of these hacks. You are quite well off without them as well. Okay, then I asked it to, hey, can you just count the number of so it generated this haiku, and I was like, hey, can you just tell me how many syllables are present in each line, because I wanted to ensure that it followed the 575 thing, and then it was able to do that. Now the reason why I show you this is because I gave it this prompt as well. I picked out this haiku from this blog article, and like I just took this, I think one of these haikus which is mentioned here, and I was like, hey, can you just give me feedback on this haiku? And what it ended up doing is that it ended up telling me that this haiku was too long, and it mentioned that the second line had 9 syllables when this was wrong. So I actually went ahead, and then it gave me some other pointers as well. So like if you even have an existing haiku, you can sort of just ask it for feedback on that. Or what you can also do as a hack again is that you can take this haiku here, you can pass it to ChatGPT again and ask it to give you feedback on that, and then if it suggests any improvements, then you can just ask it to implement those, right? Anyway, getting back to this, I asked it to count the number of syllables in the haiku I shared, right? So it gave me that the second line has 9 syllables. Now in this one, it corrected it, and it correctly mentioned that it had 8 syllables. So keep in mind that ChatGPT can make mistakes in counting. It is not the best thing at counting. So this is something just that you can keep in mind. And of course, if for the best quality responses, you can definitely use the Pro model from Gemini. And again, this is available for free, right? I'm telling you all the things that you can do on the free plan here, not using subscriptions or paid tiers of any of these services. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it, right? Of course, these are hacks, and but again, like, you know, all the AI models are kind of like a commodity now. So just run the same query through all these platforms once on the default models. Usually the default settings that ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini have are best enough, are good enough for most use cases, right? These model providers are intelligent enough to kind of give you the best settings so that you get the best response for your query, and you can trust those default settings. But yeah, of course, if you are an enthusiast and if you want to tinker, then I showed you that how you can kind of figure out which is the best model out there. And of course, if you want to get more into benchmarks, then yeah, you can do something like you can Google up like I don't know, Gemini 3. Like maybe Gemini 5.4 nano benchmarks, and you can see what were the benchmarks for Gemini 3.1 flashlight, and maybe Claude Haiku 4.5 benchmarks, and then maybe compare them. Or you know, like these companies also have if I could just go to this Gemini flashlight, yeah, they have this blog post, and these companies usually put the benchmarks in their blog section as well. So yeah, there you see. So here they have compared just a moment, yeah. So you can see that they have compared Gemini flashlight with Gemini 2.5 flash with Gemini 2.5 flashlight. Anyway, if we ignore all of that, then at that time when 3.1 flashlight was released, GPT-5 mini was the latest model, and Claude 4.5 Haiku was already there, and there is also Grok 4.1 fast. This is from XAI, but yeah, they're still kind of catching up. So yeah, if you want to maybe like, you can just go through these blog articles, review the different benchmarks, and see which one is performing better. So yeah, that's also one way to go about it. But yeah, essentially the thumb rule is that it doesn't really matter, because again, AI models are more or less a commodity nowadays. So yeah, hopefully you found all this info helpful. Hopefully all of this made sense. And if you would like to if you have any queries, then just drop those in the comment section, and I'll try to get back to you. And yeah, you know the drill. Subscribe, follow, like, comment, etc., etc. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a lovely day. Peace.